actually I had a bit of a, not just a passion for it, but it's something I was really good at. So I started out as just a personal trainer back in the early 90s. But in a very short period of time, I was then managing health clubs for a big hotel group. And that progressed right through up until about 8 years ago, where I got tired of just the physical fitness sort of stuff, not because I was bored of it, I thoroughly enjoy it. I still enjoy it today, I still love lifting and training and coaching people. But I felt there was something missing. I wanted something more from what I was doing and how I was actually promoting health and fitness to the average person instead of just trying to sell them a gym membership. I get right, I love selling gym memberships. Yeah, I make a lot of money out of them. So, I'm not going to stop doing that anytime soon. But I wanted more. So I sort of went on a bit of a journey, a bit of a search to see what was out there, see what was going on. Somehow ended up in Singapore. Don't ask me. And within the space of a couple of years, I was working with a Singapore R&D company who actually make this little gadget here. It's called the B-Pro G2, called a Casper. There's about £4,000 sat there, by the way, so you won't be picking one up from the Lloyd's pharmacy anytime soon. So I started working with this R&D company, and before I knew it, I was writing their training programs for all their devices. And then spent the next 2 years travelling around the UK and Europe, both within the NHS and within the private medical sector, teaching people how to use this technology. So what is this technology? It's not a Fitbit, that much I can tell you. It's about a couple of key things called PWA, which is pulse wave analysis, CASP, which is central aortic systolic pressure, and radial tonometry. Anybody know what any of those things are? You can't do it. So, I'm not an academic, I'm not a doctor, I don't even have a degree. Yeah, I'm just a Joe. Worked my way up from scratch into executive management and got involved in this and set myself on a path. What I found was I started looking at health and fitness very, very differently. Very, very differently. And what I suddenly realized is that at the service end of the market, there's a very, very poor quality of information available on anything outside what I would call physical fitness. Yeah? And even with that, having been somebody that's been suffering from a degenerative disc for the last 6 to 7 years, suddenly realised that actually the amount of information available for, functional injuries and issues like that is also really poor. If you don't get out there and actually find it yourself and dig hard, A, it's not freely available, and B, if you do find it, it costs a lot of money to get the treatment and everything that you need, to actually improve. That sounds really negative, doesn't it? It's like the health and fitness industry is rubbish. It's not. What I now do is I now spend a lot of my time looking for different ways of how I can find different platforms to promote to my customers, how I can guide them in looking at health and fitness in a different way and being more engaged with their health and fitness. And one of those is through technology. Getting to really the key aspect of what I'm sort of promoting these days is technology for health. What is it? Where is it going? Is it useful? Does it belong in our lives? Should we throw it out the window or should we embrace it? What do you think? Does anybody here have any thoughts of perceptions of what is technology for health?
Is it more sensor based or
any kind whatsoever, anything that you've come across,
It's usually simplicity and flashy. I think that's usually what helps people see fitness and technology. You always have the, the small watches, and you think, oh, actually, that, you can see how many meters you've run in a particular time, and all of a sudden when you click on your watch, you'll share it all over Facebook and everything else like that. It's just trying to brag about how fit you are, and makes us unhealthy people down a little bit.
Absolutely. Has anybody come across any other, particular apps or?
There's a number of apps out there. It's just phenomenal. But I always come up with kind of something. Yeah, okay, how would I like? Does it actually measure what I think, or what they say should measure? And start thinking now.
I believe Fitbit have recently been in the media, haven't they? It's going to cost them a lot of money.
Fitbit, there's a lot of technology out there that purports to do things that it doesn't necessarily do that. Which is the problem.
Absolutely. So when we look at these platforms, and it's not saying, I'm not saying like poo-pooing it, I'm not. Right? I think what it's about, and it's important to understand, is what does that technology do? And this is a little bit like we were saying earlier about academics and businesses. Know what it does, know what questions to ask. If you go out there and you download 3 or 4 different apps, and you go and spend however much on an Apple Watch or a Fitbit or a Garmin or a polar heart rate monitor, or even now you can buy earpieces that will measure your oxygen levels, tell you what altitude you're at or whatever. How does it actually truly help you know any more about your health and fitness? And actually, there's an awful lot of companies out there that make millions and millions of dollars on people not asking that question. And the fact that actually it is generally flashy, and the information they provide you is generally quite superficial. And if you got right into it, you'd probably find out that the parameters are pretty broad and they're not that accurate.
They just read what they say in the media, in the press, and they think, oh, the calories is what matters, or this specific diet, and then the health company will think, actually, let's go and try and play on that and try and expand that, and then just try and create a new trend that might even die out in a couple of years, and you think, oh, why do I have this in the first place?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. So my thing is, I look for technology and platforms, and a couple here that we've already engaged with, not just me as an individual, but as a company. And we're only one health club, got about 900 members, but as a health and fitness company that's looking to grow over the next few years as to how we get that message about health and fitness and about how people engage with that, and what can be accessed that is going to be of some real use. Because and everybody's need is different, so we're trying to take the innovative approach that says, well, as much as it's lovely to get people into the gym and training and having a gym membership, how else can we engage them in health and fitness? So the way that we've set up our club at the moment is, we brought in a physiotherapy clinic, we're just about to take on a specialist nutritionist, we bring in specialist trainers on an ad hoc basis for people to engage with, no extra costs, stuff like that. So it's about really trying to encourage people to have access and get involved in the information that is not normally freely available, and better understand why they then should engage in health and fitness in a greater way. So actually it's all about health and fitness promotion, but just changing the way that we deliver that information and trying to come up with new ways to get over those boundaries that a lot of people are discouraged by, because they're having things like gym membership shoved down their throat all the time. But actually that's just one very, very simple way forward, and it's not necessarily the one that's going to help people the most. So the technology I got involved in looked past the physical in a very specific way. It's medical technology, it's CE, MDD approved and FDA approved. It's been around for about in 2002, a guy that invented it, who was the CEO of HealthStats, the Singapore company, a guy called Dr. Chun-Ming Ting. Fantastic individual, serial inventor, and still runs his own GP practice on a daily basis. And somehow finds time to design and develop this stuff. But what he looked at was predominantly blood pressure and hypertension. Yeah, something that we've all generally come across. But one of the key things he looked at was 24-hour blood pressure monitoring, which is a key thing in the UK. And actually, has anybody ever had their blood pressure monitored for 24 hours? No? If you... Generally quite large, aren't they?
The word is, yeah. They're going to create high blood pressure.
They do, yeah. Whereas now what we've got is technology that actually looks like that. Because normally you have a monitor not as big as this, but you have it in a satchel, you'll be wearing a cuff. Actually, my mum was wearing one day. In fact, apart from the fact the nurse put a cuff on back to front, it was a bit disturbing. But the records and data from that were inconclusive because she couldn't sleep, so her blood pressure went up. She was fiddling with it all the time, so her blood pressure went
Well,
up.
the first time I tried one of those, on the arm,
Yeah.
that they said the only reason why my blood pressure was sky high for my age was because I never experienced that before. When it was starting to getting closer, I thought, Jesus, what on earth is happening to my arm?
Anxiety, yeah. White coat syndrome is massive. You know, you walk in the doctors, your blood pressure goes up, you walk out, it goes down. So actually, looking at hypertension and blood pressure and monitoring that actually is really quite difficult. So when you've got technology that comes along like this, and no, you can't go on Amazon and buy this. And absolutely, there's great care needed in not only putting this on someone, but also, sharing the information from it. We're very cautious about it. We draw a very fine line. We do not diagnose on any level whatsoever. But we have trained with the experts, and we are effectively certified to be able to operate it and share the data in a professional way. Because ultimately, what you tell somebody is crucial. You could easily start scaremongering when actually there's no need. But the information that is provided from something like this is highly accurate, and it gives you a better insight into what is truly going on with your health. Something that you can stand on and say, yeah, I could look at that, and if it says I'm potentially at risk, because the readings are too high, then I should do something about that. A lot of the current platforms that are used in the health and fitness industry, they've got no weight behind them whatsoever. They're just too broad. Yeah, the old, been in the game a long time, got your own gym. How many fitness tests did you run?
Well, I think fitness testing was very popular years ago, but it's less popular now.
Because.
Well, I think there's always been a kind of a clash with the medical industry. Do you know what I mean? And doctors. I was at my doctor's surgery the other day and asked them to put a flyer on their notice board, advertising the gym, and they won't allow you to do it because there's still that kind of. It's just a kind of a friction between the medical and the fitness kind of fraternity, really. So.
Absolutely, and I think one of the big reasons behind that is the sharing of knowledge and information about where the general public sit with that, where their health sits with that. So you've almost got two opposite ends of the scale, trying to do the same thing, but very much at the opposite ends of the scale. What we found is that if we can find the right technology and we can find the right platforms that connect the two, so you get stuff that is medically approved but accessible by non-medical professions, actually you can start to close that gap a little bit more. And a lot of the information used to develop this is actually used by and already set in the NICE guidelines. So it means that your customers can go to their GP and they can actually share that information and you know, not every GP is going to laugh in their face or tell them to go away. You know, you start closing that gap a little bit. Yeah. So 24-hour blood pressure monitoring hit the NICE guidelines in August 2011. That GP should start to actually start prescribing that if people's blood pressure was starting to get up towards, you know, hypertension stage 1. The thing that's not in the UK yet, but is highly used in America, that we hope within the next sort of 5 years will come over here, is the other side of the technology, which is pulse wave analysis and CASP testing. Yeah. Know much about CASP, Professor?
A little bit, not very much.
So your true blood pressure is not at your arm. Yet we measure it from the arm. Is there any reason we don't know why we do that?
Is it easier?
Definitely. Yeah.
Well, I don't know where the best place to use your blood pressure, but if it's on your leg or something, you want to be touched on that leg.
Best place to measure it being neck.
Oh, is it?
It's not kill you.
Yeah.
That's really, because really, the blood pressure is designed to perfuse your brain.
Oh, right.
And the sensors are all in the neck or upper aorta. So what they do is they merely look at how elastic the artery is. If your arteries are getting less elastic, it takes more force to stretch them. Therefore, you need more force to stretch the sensor. So the sensors are in this, the carotids and the aortic arch. If the artery is becoming fattier or becoming more fibrous, then you need more pressure to stretch it. So it's elasticity of the artery and the aorta is important.
See, I love the way the professor just lovely linked my way to the next piece. Fantastic. Yeah, so one of the key areas for measuring true blood pressure is at the aortic valve. Yeah. You can't get to that without invasive procedure. So it's not accessible. The information's there, the data is there, but it's not accessible. You know, so there's that gap again. Medical, you know, health and fitness industry, where's the connection? This technology has been, there's a chap called Professor Brian Williams, who works out of UCL in London, who worked directly with Dr. Ting. They did 2,000 procedures. Professor Williams doing the angiogram, and then the B-Pro technology was put on the wrist, and the CASP was actually measured invasively and non-invasively, so true blood pressure at the aortic valve. And the 2,000 patient trial came back at a 99.17% accuracy on non-invasive level. So it's highly accurate technology. A very, very clever algorithm that's allowed us to develop. So what we're moving towards is, I believe, a change in the future of health and fitness and technology, where that gap between Fitbits, physical fitness, and medical technology is closing. Over the next few years, we will be able to provide the general public with a far greater insight into what is going on with their health, rather than guessing in broad strokes. Yeah, does that make good sense? Cool. And the last little bit from me is pulse wave analysis, talking about elasticity. That's what this is. Yeah, careful how I handle it. About £4,000 is we can actually do with this true pulse wave analysis. So we can actually sit down and actually look at your arterial elasticity just from this, which is phenomenal, because the health indicators and the indices that we can obtain from this information is far greater than anything we've been able to access. And when we look at our own health and we look at our own fitness, in terms of the decisions that we make and the money that we spend and the investment we put into different things like diet, like exercise, like supplements, lifestyle changes, stress management, we're starting to get technology that can help us evidence-base those choices. And that, for me, is not only my passion, but now a large part of my business, where I'm looking for those evidence-based platforms that help people make better choices and better investments into their actual health and fitness. Ask me, if you've got any questions, please ask.
Has any of this been on TechNet?
Sorry?
Has any of this been on TechNet shown on? There's a net site called TechNet. There's another one called tech.com.
No, I don't actually
So
know
this is
those.
specifically for medical technology.
Okay.
And it is all the new inventions.
I'll just look at that.
The only thing I've got wrong with it is that obviously as you get older, your elasticity is going to change anyway.
Yes, it does.
If you're overweight, you can do something about it. If you don't eat properly, you can do something about it. If your elasticity of your arteries change as you get older, there's not an awful lot. There's a certain amount you can do about it, but it worries me that age changes are going to occur anyway.
That's a fantastic point, but actually not quite true. In actual fact, your arterial elasticity is one of the most changeable factors within our control, no matter how old you are. And yes, as you get older, they do have a tendency to harden, but through lifestyle changes, through exercise, through diet and nutrition, actually you can change that. And there's actually a study at Nottingham University at the moment, lots of IP surrounding that, so I can't say very much. They're doing a full pulse wave analysis trial around flavonoids, and they've actually discovered a particular apple, where the potency of flavonoids is so high that within a matter of minutes it's actually relaxing the arteries, no matter what the age group. So the arteries are very susceptible to change, and there's more and more evidence coming out that is saying that just because you're getting older doesn't mean you've got to put up with this. And the evidence is now coming through to prove that, and we're now getting access to technology that's allowing us to test that and actually identify that. I think the big thing for me, like I said, I come from a completely non-academic background, is I see that gap closing, and I see better technology coming through, and obviously, to drive mine to find better technology that is not a gimmick, that has got evidence-based, medical, tested research, clinical trials, information behind it that we can access that on a day-to-day basis, that we can potentially have more information to make better decisions about our health and fitness. So I'm not an advocate of any one thing. It's more a case of it's a drive to get people as a whole to engage more in their health and fitness, not take too much notice of what's in the media, in the general media, and what's thrown out there on the internet and online, because it's just there's so much information that you can't filter it. And what normally actually comes through and supersedes all the really good stuff is the corporate marketing on gimmicks, things like Fitbits and Garmin's and stuff like that. That yes have a purpose, but is it truly a purpose that is going to help us, be fitter and healthier, or live fitter and healthier lives? And my key drive is to find technology that does the latter, so we can actually establish what's going on, and if we've got a much better picture of, how is our health. One of the key things for me that changed was having access to this technology. The old wise tales about, somebody who was overweight should be assumed as unhealthy. Really? On what basis? For how many decades have we actually been going down that road where if somebody's BMI is too high, that all of a sudden they're a major health risk of CVD? On what basis?